The way to get rid of your anxiety is through repeated voluntary exposure to your fears. I've dealt with anxiety for a really long time. I remember I first got it almost a year ago now when school first started in 2021 in September. I never had anxiety before then, and it probably has something to do with COVID lockdown and not being able to see people. And I was in a bad time. I was down bad too for a long time in the summer prior. So, but every day on the ride to school in the taxi that would pick me and a few other people up, I would always feel this pain in my chest. And like I said, I never felt anxiety before this time. So I didn't understand what it was. I thought it was something that I was eating. Like I was eating something in my breakfast. I have a smoothie every day, right? Protein smoothie, gotta get them gains, right? But I found out later that it was just anxiety. And I was getting it because I was going to school in a big packed place, crowded with people, and I feared any social interaction at all, really. I remember during the summer prior, I would go out for walks outside, and I'd be too nervous, I'd be too anxious to make eye contact with people that was passing by. So what I would do is I would kind of look over, I would kind of want to like nod, say good afternoon or whatever bullshit, right? And I would be like, I'd look over and make eye contact with them. But if they didn't make eye contact with me within the first few seconds, I'd look away and and I'll just walk away awkwardly and shit. And social anxiety it ruins something that could be very special, man. Because we're social creatures. We're meant to be going out, we're meant to be meeting new people, talking, socializing, making conversation. And when you can't do that, when your body, when your mind, whatever is making you feel that pain, and you just feel like you're missing out on everything. And you really are too. And not even just in social interaction like that, but I remember one time in my French class, this was later in the year, in my French class, our French teacher had something where she would like spin this wheel on a computer, and then whoever's name landed on, we would have to give like a mini presentation that we just written up. I remember once landed on me. It was actually a scary experience because I think that was the first time I had like an anxiety attack or whatever. Like I couldn't breathe almost. Like I was talking, but I was talking through my breath, if that makes any sense. I couldn't breathe air in, and I was like talking on a long, like as I was exhaling almost, if that makes any sense. I mean, I don't know if people could tell or what, but it was just fuck. I remember I had a goal for a while to start approaching girls and get girls' numbers, and go on dates and all that. I think the first few times actually, when I went up to a girl, I would walk up to her and my legs would be like shaking as I'm walking up to her, because I'd be so fucking anxious. And then I would go up to her and I'd start talking. I'll start saying whatever bullshit I was saying. But my anxiety kicks in, and then I just start stuttering what I'm trying to say. And, oh man. I took this test, right? It's this NHS mental health test. You just answer a bunch of questions, and then it gives your rank of depression and anxiety. And I took this test back in January of this year. I think I got like an 8 or a 7 or something. I'll put it on screen. Cut to earlier this month, I took the test again for anxiety. I got a 4. It's a 3, dumbass, which is big progress. So how did I make this progress? What did I do? If you have bad anxiety and you want to see a doctor, go ahead. That's probably what you should do, to be honest. But most people have too much anxiety to actually go to a doctor, right? At least I did. I'm gonna break this up into 2 parts, long-term and short-term. But before we can treat our anxiety, we have to define it. I'm gonna give you the Broscience version of it. But basically, we have this part of our brain called the amygdala, something like that.
Amygdala.
Also known as our lizard brain. Now, this is the part of the brain responsible for that fight or flight feeling we get. If you've ever been in a fight or close to it, you get that feeling where your palms start to sweat and you start breathing, hyperventilating a little more. That is the fight or flight feeling, and that's the feeling we get during anxiety. Now, in our history as humans and shit, we were out hunting and then we saw a tiger in the corner of our eye. Our lizard brain would kick in because we need that fight or flight feeling. We need to be kicked into action because our fight or flight instinct, how do you say that word? Instinct. Because our fight or flight instinct causes us to act quickly. In a primitive time, if we saw a tiger in the corner of our eye, we're just chilling, with the boys. If we used our regular brain or normal brain, whatever bullshit it's called, we would sit there thinking, okay, the tiger's there. If we move at a certain speed, we would get eaten because we're thinking too much about it. We have to act, and that fight or flight instinct kicks in to make us act. Now, against the tiger, we're goners, man. Against the tiger. But we have a higher chance of surviving if we act quickly than if we stop and start thinking about processing what we should do and all that. Now, what does this mean for us, for anxiety? Our anxiety is our bodies using that lizard brain unnecessarily. It's using that lizard brain in situations that don't call for it. For example, when you're going to meet somebody new at a party, when you're having a conversation with that girl you like, and because our lizard brain can't think properly, it just knows to act. When in those situations, when we have anxiety, we don't think properly. We don't think things through clearly. Instead, we get worried about all these possible situations that could happen, which aren't actually realistic if we actually took a step back to think about it. So what we want to do is quiet our lizard brain as much as possible. I'm going to break this down in long-term methods and short-term methods. Now, the long-term way to get rid of your anxiety is through daily meditation and deep journaling. And this is where all the pussies click off because meditation is gay. And honestly, I thought the same thing. Ever since I started my self-improvement journey, I've always been hesitant to try meditation. I just didn't understand how just sitting and doing nothing could bring any actual results. So let me break this down for you guys. Meditation increases our skill of mindfulness and presence. Presence is being in the moment. When you're anxious, when you're talking to that girl, when you're at that party, you're too stuck up here in your thoughts, and that prevents you to live your life to the fullest. Through daily meditation, we build presence. We start living here instead of in here. And there's been countless of studies proving that meditation boosts your mental health. It gets rid of anxiety and it decreases mind wandering, which is what we do when we're anxious. I have a video on meditation if you want to watch that. And like I said before, this is the long-term method. With meditation, you don't get the results on day one. You might feel a little more relaxed after you do a 5-10 minute meditation session, but you won't get rid of your anxiety immediately. It's a slow process. And if it's a slow process, you might be asking, oh, what's the point? Why not I just do the short-term methods? Because meditation gives you the best benefits for anxiety. We have to have that mindset that we want the best benefit instead of just any benefit. Of course, you want to use the long-term and the short-term methods combined, but we want the best benefit possible, so we have to also use the long-term. And this is going to discourage a lot of guys, and it discouraged me when you do a meditation session for today, for tomorrow, and then you quit. Because you don't see those results. And because you don't see those results, it doesn't mean that it's not working. I saw this analogy before. If you have a fat friend, right, and he comes to you and he's been working out for a few days and he's been going to the gym, but he hasn't lost any substantial weight yet. He's not seeing any real results. And then he comes to you and he says that he's gonna quit because of that. What would you say to him? If you're a good friend, which hopefully you are, man, but if you're a good friend, you're gonna tell him that he should stick to it. Because although he doesn't see results today, he will eventually if he keeps to it. He has to trust in the process and delay gratification. Go through the pain and discomfort now so then he can have the body that he wants in the future. That's what we need to do for meditation. Now let's talk about deep journaling. So if you have anxiety for talking to new people, for social situations, whatever it be, you have to look introspectively. You have to look inward and see what has happened in my past that makes me so scared, so afraid, so anxious about these situations. Because most people experience some sort of childhood trauma. And when we think of childhood trauma, we think of usually getting beaten or getting yelled at, but childhood trauma can go even further than that. And a lot of people's anxiety is caused from some past experience they had. And I know for me, my social anxiety came from not being socialized properly when I was a kid. And this is something that you should journal. You should ideally write it down. If you're too much of a bitch to do that, you can just pull up your phone and go on the notes app. But you should write down and really ask yourself, write down the question, is my anxiety caused by some past experience or childhood trauma? And then answer that. Don't just answer it with one sentence, with one word. Really dig into it. And this is something it's hard to do because we have to look back at our pain and suffering from the past, and it can be a really hard thing. It may be difficult, but it also might be necessary. Because you can either just use the short-term methods that I'm going to talk about in a minute and only fix your anxiety on the surface, or you can dig deep and find out really what's causing this, what's the root cause. Because if you find out that and you can deal with that, then you deal with all your anxieties, not just the ones on the surface right now. And if you don't really know where to start with this, if this journaling, it sounds kind of weird to you, you don't really get it, then you can ask yourself these questions and answer them that I learned from psychocybernetics. Then you can use these questions as a guideline. I'm going to put them on screen. You can answer these questions that come from the book Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And when you're doing this deep journaling, you will feel a sort of relief after your first session or whatever you want to call it. It takes time because it's not something that you can just unravel in just one half hour. So this is also a long-term method. But now on to the short-term methods to improve your anxiety or get rid of your anxiety. I call these short-term methods, but really they're methods that you can start today and instantly see progress with. So the short-term method is to face your fears and your anxieties with aggression and with progressive overload. And I'm going to break that down. So you want to get specific about your anxiety. So if you have social anxiety, Get specific. What are you anxious about? Are you anxious about going up to new people? Are you anxious about talking to new people? Are you anxious about big social environments? Are you anxious about talking to girls? Are you anxious about flirting with girls? Whatever it is, right? So you want to get specific in detail what you're scared about. And for me, one of my biggest anxieties was going up to new people. Just the act of going up to them. So now that you found your specific anxiety, ask yourself, do I need any skills for this? Do I need any skills that I do not have? So if you're lacking social skills, for example, so you can read books on that. I'm just going to put some up on screen. And from there, you want to have a growth mindset. You want to have the belief that you can improve at this activity, at this situation. So for me, going up to new people, that is a skill, and I can improve at that. Because if you have a fixed mindset, if you believe that some people are born with charisma and social skills, I'm just not one of them, I can't do it. If you think like that, you're not going to try. And if you don't try, then you definitely will not do it. But then you want to take your feared situation, your skill that you need to improve at, and then start practicing it with progressive overload. You want to start small in small steps. So me, I couldn't go up to people. I couldn't do it. So I started off by going on walks and just nodding. That's like legit, that's all I did. I would go on walks and when someone passed by, I would just nod. I'll look at them, make eye contact, and nod. Because you have to start small. Because if you try to do the big thing at first, you're not going to be able to do it. We want to progressively overload our way into this. Just like the gym, you're not going to be able to bench 225 the first day. You have to work up to it. So me, I started off by just looking at people, giving head nods, and then eventually I would start saying good morning or good evening, whatever. And then I would start saying, hey, how you doing? I'm just upping the bar little by little and then getting comfortable in that. And I did that until the point where I could go up to somebody I didn't know and just start a conversation. Just like that. If you voluntarily expose yourself to a feared situation and you do that repeatedly, your anxiety will subside. Anxiety is a terribly painful thing to deal with, and people will say that, oh, only medication can fix it, only prescription, whatever bullshit, but I'm here to tell you that progress can be made. There is hope. Don't be afraid to give up the good for the great. Peace out.